guys, she did it. She smoked this fucking layup. But here's something you may not have known. Fumbler-in-Chief Kamala Harris won't be the first black woman chosen to be the head of state, the chef d'etat, the head honcho, the grand poobah, if you will, in this hemisphere. And no, this isn't going to be a 20-minute hit piece questioning Kamala's blackness, as funny as that would be. But rather, that title has just already been taken. Yes, I'm only talking about the Western Hemisphere because the East kinda broke the meta having Africa on their team. But over here in the Americas and beyond, the USA won't be laying claim to the first Afro-descendant woman to take the highest position in a country's government. So who can lay claim to this most prestigious title? Well, there are a few answers depending on how permissive you want to get with our terms and definitions. And if you stay with me for just a second, we'll frame their philosophies with filigree and scribble till it burns, till these women get detailed with every sentence they deserve. I'm Jelly Like Jam, let's get into it.
Barbados' first Prime Minister, the Right Excellent Errol Walton Barrow, cautioned against loitering on colonial premises. That warning is as relevant today as it was in 1966. Having attained independence over half a century ago, our country can be in no doubt about its capacity for self-governance. The time has come to fully leave our colonial past behind.
To find our first answer, we must look to the land of sun and surf, of towering mountains and sandy beaches, and everybody's favorite example of why colonialism never died. I'm speaking, of course, of the island nation of Haiti. To understand the political situation, it all starts with everybody's favorite Banana Republic dictator, Francois Duvalier. In the years following his ousting, or rather I should say the ousting of his son who took power after his father's death, the government of Haiti cycled through a series of Duvalier cronies, leading many historians to refer to this era as post-Duvalierism, or Duvalierism without the Duvaliers. Now, I'm going to fast forward through this era. All we need to know is that Prosper Avril, the last major player from this era, was deposed in a military coup in 1990. The man who took his place, Gerard Abraham, actually resigned from the position as head of state within 3 days. And taking his place and in charging herself with the organizing of a new election for the next president was none other than the Honorable Miss Ertha Pascal-Trouillot, the first black woman to be head of state in the Western Hemisphere. So, on March 13th, 1990, at 56 years old, Ertha Pascal-Trouillot was sworn in as the first woman to be president of Haiti. But who was she? And how did she manage to position herself as the most qualified person to take over the presidency of Haiti?
Frère Maxime, nous choisissons pour mener battre pays sans perdre du temps. Moi accepter charge nous ça pour toute femme haïtienne qui pour la première fois rentrer dans l'histoire pays noir.
The Honorable Judge Pascal-Trouillot was born in the well-to-do suburb of Port-au-Prince known as Pétionville. Her father was an ironworker who died when she was young, and she was the 9th out of 10 total children that her parents had. She and one of her brothers attended Lycée François Duvalier, where she was predominantly interested in the sciences. However, her mentor eventually persuaded her to pursue a career in law. So at the age of 27, she went and received her law degree from the École de Droit de Gonaïves, or the Gonaïves School of Law. She became the first woman in the judicial system when she got her first appointment to the Court of First Instance, which is Haiti's equivalent of first-level criminal courts. After serving for about a decade and a half, she was appointed to the Haitian Supreme Court in 1986, yet another first in her career being the first woman to rise to such a role. 4 years into her tenure as Supreme Court Justice, we reached the year 1990, where she was selected to be the provisional president of the Republic of Haiti. And you bet she was good at her job. He organized a legitimate and safe election, which is saying something given Haiti's history of foreign intervention and election interference, and out the other side came Jean-Bertrand Aristide as president. Pascal-Trouillot would transfer power in 1991, and Aristide's presidency famously went off without a single hitch. The end. What? That's it? Just a provisional president who only served a year in office? Is that really the best we have? I mean, it's cool, sure, but it's like nothing to hang our hats on. Okay, first of all, a provisional president who was also the first woman Supreme Court justice, but okay. We're not going to disrespect the Honorable Judge Pascal-Trouillot like this. But fine, there is another sovereign nation in the Western Hemisphere who chose a woman to serve as head of state. And to find her, we don't even have to leave the Caribbean. So let's take a trip to another land of sun and surf a little ways to the southeast of Haiti towards the base of the Lesser Antilles chain. Yes, I'm talking about Barbados. So in 2021, the beautiful island nation of Barbados finally got enough sense to leave the British Commonwealth, meaning that the Queen was no longer the sovereign leader of their nation. No more Queen on the money. Oh yeah, that was back when the Queen still existed.
What's your opinion on the Queen? She's dead.
No more Queen using her sovereign veto powers to enforce colonial land deals as the royal family did and continues to do throughout the rest of the Caribbean and the colonial Commonwealth. The Republic of Barbados would finally set up its own fully independent government, and with the selection of their very first head of state, they made the rather progressive selection in one Miss, Sandra Mason. Let's give you a quick rundown of Her Excellency's political career from the 70s until her appointment as president in 2021. So she started out as a magistrate in the juvenile family court, and that's just a lower level judge, by the way, while also tutoring students in family law at the University of the West Indies. In 1991, she became part of the inaugural crew of the UN Committee on the Rights of the Child and graduated to the chair of the committee in 1997. During this period, she also served as the ambassador to Venezuela starting in 1992, and in the next couple years she would then also be appointed as ambassador to Chile, Colombia, and Brazil. In 1994, she returned to Barbados and she was appointed chief magistrate, and in 1997, she became registrar for the Supreme Court. This just means that she was the official record keeper. In 2008, she finally moved to the appeals court, becoming the first woman to hold such a position. Eventually, in 2017, she became Governor General of the Barbados, which is the highest ranking official and basically the representative and first point of contact of the British royal family in the Barbados. 3 years later, given her ceremonial duties, it was her honor, duty, and privilege to announce in September of 2020 in a speech written by the Honorable Miss Mia Mottley, we'll get to her later, that by the end of autumn the next year, the Barbados would become an independent republic, along with nationalizing all possessions of the British Crown. And on November 30th of 2021, she was inaugurated as president in a ceremony celebrating the newly independent nation.
The time has come to fully leave our colonial past behind. Barbadians want a Barbadian head of state. This is the ultimate statement of confidence in who we are and what we are capable of achieving. Hence, Barbados will take the next logical step towards full sovereignty and become a republic by the time we celebrate our 55th anniversary of independence.
Okay, but Jelly, I read the Bajan Constitution, and the president just absorbed the duties of the Governor General, which means that Sandra Mason's role as president within the new parliamentary republic system is still mostly ceremonial, just receiving foreign dignitaries, presiding over ceremonies, etc. Can we get a woman with some, genuine legislative and executive power? Geez, nothing's ever enough for you, is it? Well, of course we can. And so to find her, we actually gotta go all the way around the globe to Barbados. So serving alongside President Sandra Mason is Prime Minister Mia Mottley. Remember her? So anybody unfamiliar with how governments work within this parliamentary republic paradigm, whereas the president is the head of state taking any duties relevant to such a position in varying capacities depending on the country up to and including Commander-in-Chief of the military, the Prime Minister is the head of government, which means they do things such as set the legislative agenda, choose members of the executive cabinet, negotiate foreign policy, etc.
The global north borrows between interest rates of between 1% to 4%. The global south of 14%. And then we wonder why the just energy partnerships are not working. Similarly, we ask ourselves if countries that want to finance their way to net zero and want to do the right thing can't get the critical supplies, will they not have to rely again on natural gas as that clean bridge? This is the bald reality. How do companies make $200 billion in profits in the last 3 months and not expect to contribute at least 10 cents in every dollar of profit to a loss and damage fund? And how much more must happen? And I say so because there's no simplicity in it. We get it. I come from a small island state that has high ambition, but that is not able to deliver on that high ambition because the global industrial strategy that we have has fault lines in it. Our ability to access electric cars or our ability to access batteries or photovoltaic panels are constrained by those countries that have the dominant presence and can produce for themselves, but the global south remains at the mercy of the global north on these issues.
Once again, how did the Honorable Miss Mia Mottley rise to such a position of prominence within Barbados? So Miss Mottley is the granddaughter of one Ernest Mottley, a successful parish-level politician. That's basically a county if you're from the United States. And the daughter of Elliot Mottley, a lawyer who sat on several different appeals courts across the Caribbean. Mia Mottley would study at the Queen's College of Barbados and later on went to receive a law degree from the University of London in 1986. 5 years later, Mottley would attempt to enter Bajan politics, running for office in St. Michael's Northeast Parish, an election which she ended up losing by less than 200 votes. Her first successful bid for office was when she landed on the Senate of Barbados, where she served as the Minister of Culture and Community Development, as well as serving on several joint select committees of the Parliament. In 1994, she was appointed as Minister of Education, Youth Affairs and Culture under Prime Minister Owen Arthur, and at the young age of 29, this made her the youngest person in the Barbados ever to be assigned to a ministerial position. So from there, she graduated to General Secretary of the Barbados Labour Party in 1996. And in the next year, she became the chairwoman of the CARICOM Standing Committee of the Ministers of Education. Now, I'll spare you the details of the next 2 decades of her political career and skip to the period immediately preceding her appointment as Prime Minister. So starting from 2013, after the Barbados Labour Party lost the Democratic Labour Party by 2 seats, Mia Mottley was appointed as leader of the opposition. The DLP lost popularity over the course of their term, and by the next general election in 2018, the Barbados Labour Party, or BLP, won by the biggest majority in Barbados history, winning all 30 seats in the legislature. Like, they just straight up swept their opposition. And as the most prominent minister in the new majority government, Mia Mottley was duly sworn in as the Prime Minister of the Barbados, the second woman to hold this position. Wait, so if she's only the second woman in the position, why are we talking about her? Well, mind you that we're still talking about neo-colonial Barbados history. Ultimately, any legislature passed by the Barbados is still subject to royal approval from the Queen. In 2020, the Barbados announced that it would be leaving the British Commonwealth and becoming an independent parliamentary republic by the end of next year. This makes Mia Mottley the first Prime Minister in the independent era. So yes, if you're paying attention, both the first President and the first Prime Minister in the era of Bajan independence are both black women, which I must say, along with its reputation in the Caribbean for being the spawn point of Batsy men, continues to feed into the narrative that Barbados is the most progressive country in the Caribbean. So there we have it, our big 3. Ertha Pascal-Trouillot, Sandra Mason, and Mia Mottley. 3 black women who excelled in their fields to such a degree that they were in charge with the task of running their country. So sure, being the first woman of color president of the United States is nothing to sneeze at. But in all honesty, I would rather spend this moment giving flowers to the 3 aforementioned women. So cheers. Full disclosure, In order for this to release on election night, I had to write, record, and edit this a week in advance, so if I'm wrong on the result of the election, I'll just change the title and add some text notes because I'm not recording a second version. Hopefully there will be some good comedy in there. Anyway, hope y'all enjoyed this vid, and if you did, hit a good old dinger and remember to subscribe. Patreon exists, and as always, any support is greatly appreciated. You get early access, transcripts, bonus content, and generally a first-hand account of how the sausage gets made. Anyway, that's all I got for you. Peace, 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 peace.